This is okay. Now this we're definitely getting into something different here. This is definitely the good stuff here. Today we're diving deep into the rabbit hole that is Wuyi rock tea, specifically looking at the Shuixian, aka the water sprite, aka Narcissus cultivar, and in this video I'll be trying 3 different Shuixian rock teas that we recently featured and sourced as part of our Tea Discovery Club. But first, a quick summary of what exactly is Wuyi rock tea. So it's a distinctive type of oolong tea that comes from the northern Fujian region, with the best types coming from Wuyishan or the Wuyi Mountains. In particular, teas grown within the Wuyishan Scenic Area, the sort of national park that's within the general Wuyishan area. That's where the best and most prized rock oolongs tend to come from. So we've got an old video that goes into this in a little bit more depth that you can check out up here. There's the link popping up here. But in general, when we're talking about rock oolongs and kind of what makes them unique, like it's definitely like the terroir, the region that it's grown in, that plays a big part. Because the tea trees that are grown within this region, they're sort of grown around these sort of rocky mountains, these rocky cliffs, and which are said to sort of impart like a lot of like sort of mineral-like, rocky-like characteristics into the soil, which obviously as the tea grows, it's sort of sucking up all this, and that sort of then affects the flavor of the tea. So Shuixian is a tea cultivar that originated in nearby Jian'ou County and was introduced into Wuyishan in around 1821. So its resilience to extreme temperatures and it being sort of relatively easy to grow means that it has since become one of the more predominant rock tea cultivars within the Wuyishan region. So what I've got here are 3 Shuixian rock teas. So with this first one, it wasn't grown within the Wuyishan Scenic Area and was actually made from leaves from tea trees that are approximately 20 years old. So still quite a young tea. While these other 2 are Laocong or old bush rock teas. So what is Laocong? So as you make your way through the world of tea, you encounter this word a lot, Laocong. And the word translates to old bush, which in the case of Wuyi rock teas refers to tea trees that are 50 plus years old. So teas made from old bushes are more expensive due to their rarity. And there aren't many around, and the yield that each tree provides isn't very big. And for the price of such teas, you might be expecting like this huge wallop of flavor that kind of smacks you in the throat. And if that's what you're looking for, if that's what you're expecting, you might leave feeling a little bit disappointed after trying a Laocong rock tea or a Laocong tea. Because the thing is with Laocong teas, especially the ones from Wuyishan, like flavor-wise, that I'd consider them like they're actually quite mellow, but they're very nuanced and very complex. And the thing is, to appreciate Laocong teas, like you need to go beyond like talking and considering things like, you know, just taste and flavor, like those kind of really surface level qualities, and talk more about the sort of feelings and sensations that the tea kind of does to you. I'll try and convey that as much as I can as I'm tasting these 3 Shuixian rock oolongs today in this video. But you know, I'll do the best that I can there. So in any case, let's get started. But before I dive in, if you're enjoying this video so far, please consider subscribing to our channel if you haven't already. It helps us out a ton, and I'll be forever grateful for your support. Now, back to the topic at hand. So this first Shuixian is made from leaves that weren't grown within the Wuyishan Scenic Area, and the leaves come from tea trees that are approximately 20 years old. So still a very nice, very aromatic kind of tea, and all the sort of those signature sort of rocky-like, mineral-like characteristics, they're still there, and along with a sort of light, slight chocolatey sort of note, and these really light sort of floral notes as well. So all the things that I would typically expect from a Wuyi rock tea, from a Shuixian Wuyi rock tea, they're there, albeit a little on the lighter side. Yeah, and even though I've let this infusion steep for a little bit longer in order to try and push like a little bit more of that flavor out, it doesn't quite have that like that long lingering aftertaste that I've experienced with other rock oolong teas that I've drunk in the past. And I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing, okay, because the flavor and intensity of rock oolongs can be a bit of an acquired taste. Like it does take a little bit of time to kind of get used to, and you know, to kind of wrap your head around in order to fully appreciate all of the sort of nuances and qualities. And perhaps for someone who either hasn't had much rock oolongs in the past or is completely new to rock oolongs, like this particular Shuixian here, I think would make for a great introduction to this style of tea. And like with rock oolong teas, like I used to kind of early on in my whole tea journey here, I used to kind of dismiss rock oolongs as being like a type of tea that I just didn't get and I just didn't like. But that was, I think, because initially, you know, my first introduction to rock oolongs were teas that had like a really strong, a really heavy bake to them. But I realized later on, you know, after exploring this style of tea a little bit more and, you know, having a chance to sort of visit the Wuyishan area and try teas from that region, I found that I like teas that, you know, have a more lighter roast, a lighter bake to them. And then when I tried some lighter baked, you know, lighter roasted rock oolongs, it kind of clicked, and I thought, okay, now I can kind of get why this tea, like why so many people are obsessed with this style of tea. You know, and I find that with lighter baked teas, especially the case with rock oolongs, like I feel like you can taste more of the inherent flavor that's within the leaves, you know, rather than, you know, the bake that's been added to it. Yeah. So moving on to the next tea, which is a Laocong Shuixian, made from leaves from tea trees that are approximately 50 to 60 years old. And they're grown in the Wuyishan area within the Wuyishan Scenic Region. And straight off the bat, I mean, the smell of this one is much more, like it is so much more complex, and I mean, I don't want to say intense, but there's definitely a stronger aroma with this one than compared to the previous tea. Like it's definitely, and it's not overpowering at all. It is a little bit spicy as well. Like it does have a hint of kind of spice to it, but this is okay. Now this, we're definitely getting into something different here. This is definitely the good stuff here. Yep, this one definitely feels a lot different from that first one. Like yeah, this is really hard to describe, but it just has so much more depth and complexity within this one compared to the first Shuixian that I just tried. Like it's really like, I mean, flavor aside, like it definitely has the rocky mineral-like characteristics are definitely there in a much more like it's a more intense. It's a stronger mineral rocky-like characteristic, but it's not like overpoweringly strong. Like it just has a lot more depth to it. Like it just fills the throat, the palate, the mouth up like much more. Okay, and there are some of those chocolatey notes there as well, but that's not as apparent. Like and there is, I mean, I'd like to say that it is a little bit floral as well. Ooh, that's like, it's very subtle, but quite potent. And But I think what makes this tea so, yeah, it's not necessarily the initial flavor. Like it's not a big, as I was saying before, it's not a big wallop of flavor. It's flavor itself is very mellow, but it's just the texture and the way the tea kind of makes you feel like it. I mean, I know it sounds kind of weird. You know, like tea is a warm beverage, right? But this one here, it just, well, once you drink it, there's this like, it feels like almost an explosion of warmth that just fills up my entire body. I don't know, maybe I've been drinking too much tea and you know, it's all starting to kind of get to my head here, but that's kind of what I'm feeling. And that to me is like a sign of like a really strong, a really high grade, high quality tea, especially when we're talking about rock teas. When I drink this tea, there's like something more to it. Like I was saying before, like each sip that I'm taking, like it kind of gives me almost this like kind of burst of energy. I don't know, call it scientifically, I don't know, maybe it's the caffeine, maybe it's like whatever the sort of compounds inside sort of reacting and giving me this energy. Like I don't know, that there's something that just feels like something about it that goes beyond just talking about flavor, aftertaste, and these kind of taste experiences. You know, like it's something more to it. I mean, a lot of tea enthusiasts would, you know, refer to this as it's cha qi, or the tea's energy. And I mean, I'm as skeptical as I come, right? I don't like to sort of talk, you know, when it comes to tea, talk about all these kind of, you know, really mystical or sort of really ambiguous terms. But sometimes I don't have a better way to describe it. Like I can only describe it as, you know, being the tea's energy, and then once you drink it, that energy kind of transfers to you and does something to you. But basically what I'm trying to say is this is one heck of a tea, and in order to appreciate all of its kind of qualities and characteristics, you've got to go beyond talking about just its flavor and its taste experiences. Like yeah, as I said, the energy, how it makes me feel, like it's something. Yeah, it's quite hard to describe, and I'm trying to, I don't know, I'm trying to convey that to you guys here. But I mean, I don't know, all you tea nerds out there, what do you think? Have you come across a tea like this before in your tea journey? Like something that has, you know, initial flavors, aftertaste, texture, and all of that are great, but a tea that has left you feeling like with feelings and sensations that are sort of hard to describe, like the energy, like you just feel like the energy is kind of coursing through you. Let me know in the comments below if you've experienced something like this on your tea journey. And now for our next Laocong Shuixian, which is tea made from leaves that are from tea trees that are approximately 70 to 80 years old, and it's grown around the Shuiliandong area, located within the Wuyishan Scenic Region. Shuiliandong, or Water Curtain Cave, is the largest cave in the Wuyi Mountains, and the cave itself is fronted by a waterfall which looks just like a soft white curtain, hence the name Water Curtain Cave. Now the water from these falls help nourish many of the tea trees that are growing below and between the rocks, and amongst them are trees from which the leaves for this tea were born. So this one actually tastes, it's a little different. Like I think overall, compared to the previous Laocong Shuixian that we just had, overall it does, initial flavor, at least in terms of its initial flavor, it does feel a little bit lighter. It's not quite as, like the mineral rocky notes are still there. That light kind of floral note is also there. A little bit of that chocolatiness is there, but that's a little bit light. It's not as apparent as the previous tea, and the spiciness is a little bit more mellow as well. Like, so this one isn't as, so even though the previous tea I said was a little bit mellow, it's it's a stronger tea compared to this one here. Like this one is even softer still, but softer, lighter, more mellow, but still with incredible depth. Like flavors are still coating the throat. I am still tasting and feeling all of the flavors and that same kind of sensation that I had with the previous tea. It's present here as well. Like when I drink the tea, I'm feeling like this kind of, I don't know, it's like this, whether it's, you call it energy, the flavors is kind of coming back and sort of filling my entire body here, which, yeah, it's an amazing feeling. It's a kind of a weird feeling, but it's great. On the second infusion, what I want to say is that I think with this one, with this particular one here, I'd say how it differs from the previous one is, I'd say the previous tea would be a little bit more spice forward. It's a little bit, yeah, like the aroma, the flavor is a little bit spicier, a little bit stronger. Whereas this one, I'd say it's a little bit more floral forward. Like it's not floral in the sense that it's like a really, you know, like a blooming flower, like a really strong, you know, like kind of flowery note, like it's still a very gentle, a very subtle kind of floral that's sort of mixed in with that sort of rocky mineral-like characteristic and a light roast to it. But I definitely say that this one is probably a lighter, yeah, comparing the two Laocong teas, like they're definitely not the same, like they don't taste like the same teas, for sure. They've got similar characteristics, that similar thread to it, that rocky minerally characteristic, that's the kind of common thread. But I guess the thing I find most interesting about tasting these two Laocong Shuixians side by side is like it kind of shows me the difference that the microclimate can make when it comes to the flavor of the tea. Like here I've got two teas that are technically of the same cultivar, like they are both Shuixian Rock Oolong cultivars, both grown within the Wuyishan Scenic Region, like that sort of national park region, but sort of a couple of 100 meters apart. And although the two teas are made from leaves that, you know, from trees that are of different ages, like one is around about 50 years old, the other one is, you know, 70 to 80 years old. Like I don't think there is like the flavor differences between these two, like is because of the age of the tea trees. Like I think it's more to do with those microclimates. Like one is kind of grown like sort of in a ravine, you know, with more shade sort of around it. The other one is around that water curtain, that sort of waterfall, water curtain area. And yeah, and then the result is two teas that are of the same cultivar, but having two, you know, fairly unique flavor profiles. I feel like I've only just begun to scratch the surface of my understanding of Shuixian Rock Oolongs, let alone Rock Oolong tea as a category as a whole. Like I'm not sure if I've developed my palate enough where I can tell the differences between a lot of these cultivars, like between a Shuixian, Gui, and any of the others. I mean, maybe I'll do that in a future video, test myself, blind taste a couple of different Rock Oolongs and see if I can identify not only which cultivars they are, but perhaps where they're from. Let me know in the comments below if you want to see a video like that. But at least after doing this kind of tasting of these three different Shuixian Rock Oolongs, I feel at least I'm one step further along in my understanding of this particular tea. Anyway, if you made it to the end of the video, thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.